sponsors.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Abdul Malik Ahmed. I am here with a very special guest, Fawad Siddiqui. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Fawad came in town and he just got off of a really cool shoot.
Yes.
And so he had some time to talk about your experience in the industry of acting and producing and production of films.
Yes.
So just tell us a little bit about your experience.
So my name is Fawad Siddiqui. I'm an actor, I guess, from Miami, Florida. I don't guess, I am an actor from Miami, Florida. I know, of course, you from way back when, from the Muslim Youth of North America days.
Yeah.
My family's from Miami.
So talk about a little bit about what made you, what kind of your early stages in your career, I guess.
So, you know, one thing that you might not realize is that Muslim activism and the youth group work that we used to do to kids, for me, that was a huge inspiration. And people might not think that first, but because our youth group, MINA, Muslim Youth of North America, had a arts component to it.
Yes.
You know, there was MINA Raps, which you guys were involved in. At the camps and conferences, they would make us do sketches and skits and things. And both at the national conference, they would have little entertainment sessions and things. And then locally, we'd be doing things. So in Florida, we had like the MINA Olympics was what we called our sports tournament, the MINA Olympics. And we'd have like videos that would play that the youth would make. Called the MINA Olympics triple cast. And we were like making fun of the NBC Olympic triple cast. And these are some of my first acting things that I think about. My brother and his friends would be doing them. I'd play a little stage hand or something in one of them, I remember. So these funny sketches and skits and things. And just that idea that you can be Muslim and express yourself artistically. The goal was to do everything in an Islamic manner as much as possible. And so that was great, man. It was so positive, and that's what I look back now. Those were the early things that I did in those sketches, and so don't underestimate the power of a little bit of creativity. And for me, it was Islamic. It was part of that same spirit of dawah and of Muslims are people that create joy and beauty. They create art. So alhamdulillah. I got into acting about 14, 15 years ago. I've been in about 15, 16 TV shows now. I've been in about 15, 16 movies. I've done commercials, theater, plays, things like that. I kind of stumbled into acting after having watched a local improv theater show near my house. I just saw, a friend of mine from high school. I saw his face on a flyer. And it was after college, after I studied journalism and writing in college and some art, and I'd worked in journalism for a couple of years, Muslim community journalism. I was the assistant editor on Islamic Horizons magazine for ISNA.
Islamic Horizons,
and I was a staff member at ISNA and had kind of organized all the arts at the 2003 convention. I remember dating myself, but so the film festival, the art sessions, the art exhibit, this, that, because I've always been into that stuff. I've had that creative urge. I had a little Muslim satirical Muslim band that I played at the ISNA entertainment sessions called the Muslim Cowboy Band.
Okay.
Wrote some songs. So this is like a previous life of mine.
Right.
And then I did teaching for a couple years in Muslim schools. And then I was just in between. And also my family has an engineering company that now I help run. But at the time I wasn't that involved. So these were kind of the couple of things I was doing, kind of meandering a little. And I saw an improv comedy show, an improv theater show. Not to be confused with stand-up comedy. Improv is like, whose line is it anyway? It's like you get suggestions, you make up scenes and characters. So I saw this, we were going to watch a movie or something, my brothers and I saw this flyer with my friend from high school on it, Keldrick. I said, oh, Keldrick, what's this? Oh, improv. I didn't even know it was a theater. It was like a storefront theater, community theater. And I saw the show, I really liked it. And I started taking the class with the director for fun on Thursday nights, just to drop in. $15 a pop, you just come and take classes. And it turns out in acting, there are these two tracks. There's like going to college and getting a degree for acting and stuff. And then there's also these local schools and studios where you can just take acting classes. Anyone can walk in off the street and just start taking classes.
Really?
And they use both to fill the roles in various theater shows and in TV and movie projects and commercials, because you need all walks of life in acting. turns out. Not just like the perfect looking 6-pack, you know, 20-something-year-old or something. They need the older people, the schlubby Pakistani people, all the different things.
All the different.
So, and improv in particular is very inclusive. So, but the classes weren't about performing or anything. You know, improv classes are often used just to like get people loose. They use it for corporate trainings and stuff sometimes. Someone will take it just to start expressing themselves a little more. Very welcoming form of acting. In the class, there'd be all types. There'd be like a banker and a baker and a lawyer or any random person. We'd have, I remember a student in a wheelchair, older people, younger people. So it was very, very nice. And you start learning the basics of acting and improv, but without any pressure. There's no pressure to perform. So it's very loose. It's fun. People get addicted. You really enjoy it a lot because you start to express yourself. So the first thing you learn in improv is that all your ideas are good. Everything. And it's such a revolutionary thing. And I think that's why it's so addictive because like...
there's no wrong answer.
Right, just at this side, like, okay, Abdul Malik, all your ideas are good. If you ever need somebody to say it, I dub you person with good, and everybody out there listening, if you ever need somebody, I dub you, Fawad Siddiqui, dub you person with good ideas. All your ideas are great. Only the catch is, my ideas are all great, but your ideas are great, so are mine. So how does that work, that all your ideas are good and all my ideas are good? And we do that with the concept called yes and in improv, which is, whatever you say, I'm gonna agree to. And I'm gonna support it, and I'm gonna add an idea of my own. And then you're gonna agree and add something back.
Okay.
So if I'm like, hey, the roses are all dead in the garden, oh my God, we should have gotten the other pesticide, I knew it, I bought the wrong pesticide, I'm so sorry. And you would say, yes.
Oh, yes. And we need to go to the store right now.
Yeah. Oh, if we buy the rosary grower. Oh, you're so smart. Thank you so much. This is why I hired you.
Rosary grower.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So then back and forth. And it'll go to a crazy place. And you have to fight the urge to say no. You have to, because our natural instinct is to shut it down.
Why are you going there?
It's scary. To go somewhere is scary. Like we want to protect ourselves instinctively, right? And this is what blocks a lot of creativity. We're just scared. We say, no, that's a horrible idea. That's horrible. Well, your brain can't not come up with something. If I tell you don't think of ice cream, what do you think of?
I'm thinking of ice cream.
You can't. Your brain's a connective machine. So when someone says, I can't think of anything, no, you thought of 800 things, but you said that sucks, that stinks, that's horrible. So training yourself to be like, it's okay. The first idea is okay. The second idea is okay. That's what's very freeing about improv acting. And I was somebody who studied writing at college and was pent up as a writer. So for me, it was like, oh, this is a writing class. This is just like a writing class. Only it's like free. Like there's no writer's block. You just do it right there. You did it. So I got the improv bug, and I would come, and every Thursday, and I'd take that class, and I'd be listening to like NPR or whatever on the radio, and like get ideas or something from my week, and I read a lot of comic books and stuff growing up, so I have all these stories in my head, and characters and stuff. So it came out, and it was great. And there's no pressure. There's no pressure.
So now that after the improv kind of.
And also, by the way, so I took that class for 3-4 months. And my director said, okay, you're getting good. Come join the group. And I was like, I don't want to join the group. I don't want to act. It's like, no, come. He forced me. So I came, and his group was very open. So I just came on a Wednesday, the rehearsal night instead. You do a couple games, and they go, okay, you're in. And then I would perform every weekend. There'd be a show, and you just let them know if you're in that week or not. It'd be right near my house, 5-10 minutes away. And it was like, whose line is it anyway? It was like a live local show. And you wouldn't even know what games you were in. You'd show up, you look at the wall, what's this? How do you play music? Okay, let's go.
And then you just have to jump in.
And it was in a little community theater. We had a backstage full of costume stuff. You put a hat on, put a jacket on, and you go. And I didn't realize it, but this was the best training for acting I could ever have wanted. Like, on the spot, So now you put me on a set, and in fact, actually, it helped me with my real life later. Years later, when I had to take over my engineering company, my family's business, when it kind of went haywire, I was that instinct of like, yeah, let's just go, let's do it, whatever, make it work, fake it till you make it.
It popped in. It came right in.
And so from that, I did improv, and I performed every weekend this fun variety kind of improv show for like 2 years. My sister got married to a guy from Chicago. then, and I had a place to stay, and the family business was doing fine without me. So I went to Chicago, and I studied then at Second City and Improv Olympic, some of the more well-known improv theaters in the country. Took some classes. I had the luxury, alhamdulillah. Yeah. A lot of actors are like that. They have some base, some finance. Otherwise, what you see a lot of actors doing is like working jobs, like waiter jobs, or somewhere you can switch shifts with somebody and get out. And many of them have family support and other things. So
that's the life, right? I mean, for those people who want to do the acting, they have to understand there's a little bit of a hardship there. Yeah.
For me, this is a good creative outlet, and I'm enjoying it. And I was going to be doing creativity somewhere.
Either way, is something.
If I would have stumbled into a comic book studio, I'd be doing comics. I'd probably be as happy, if not happier, because I love comics. But this was the thing. I said, all right, let's do it. Okay. So went to Chicago, studied there. That scene's amazing. The improv scene, the sketch comedy scene in Chicago. That's where a lot of the Saturday Night Live people come out of.
Really?
Yeah, all the Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell and Tina Fey and Jim Belushi and Bill Murray and going back. I mean, generations of them. Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau studied improv, the director of Iron Man. Really? Okay. So you get there and it's a big city full of people and culture and stuff. Yeah. And so I did that, and then I came back to Miami, and finally I was like, all right, let me get an agent. Let me get a headshot. For acting, all you need is a headshot and a resume.
Okay.
And
so go a little bit into the process of getting an agent. So is there companies? There are companies out there that you for those people who don't understand that.
So basically, in order to act, I mean, you can act anywhere. Nowadays, especially, there's all kinds of content being made. Yeah. You can find castings on Facebook groups.
Backstage, I think.
Backstage is one. There's two other websites that are for major castings. One is called castingnetworks.com and one's called actorsaccess.com. And these are the ones that are used for like the bigger productions. And you can set up your own account on there and self-submit for auditions if you want. But in general, the normal way to do it is to get an agent. And the agent combs these castings and others they have access to. And they submit you. Once you get on their roster, they submit you, and then if a production says, okay, we will see an audition for that person, they'll let you know. They'll send you an email and say, okay, you got an audition on such and such date. Before, you'd have to go in to the casting office. I mean, that's your talent agent would get you the audition. Then you'd go to a local casting office usually, or wherever they're holding the audition, and do an audition. Yeah. But nowadays, more and more things are you can self-submit, and you can do it by tape. You just video. You do it on your iPhone, and you send in. The job that I just booked, I recorded the audition at my family business, just next to an open wall. Grabbed my secretary, tape this real quick, we got 10 minutes.
And you submitted.
And I got it.
And you got it.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
2 weeks worth of work on a major TV show with Zoe Saldana. Wow. So things have changed.
You kind of that's big.
So it's more accessible. Right. But for me, so getting an agent, right? How do you get an agent? Yeah. All you really need is a headshot and a resume, for the most part. Okay. You don't need to have a college degree.
Where do you find this agent? And also, a lot of our audience is Muslim, and so they want to understand, will they understand your, Muslims sometimes have different requirements and specifications. Sure. Do you tell that to the agent? Yeah. Or tell us a little bit about that aspect.
So Muslims are in right now, brown people are in right now, minorities are in right now. We're in a moment where they want inclusion and diversity, and this has been a moment that's been going on for a while. Because I got into this stuff about 15 years ago, and it was in then. And they don't mind if you tell them straight up. Like I told, when I signed up with my agent, I was like, look, I don't do beer commercials. I don't do nudity. Yeah. And if it's some terrorist garbage, I'm going to tell them. If it's a realistic three-dimensional bad guy, that's one thing. Right. But if it's just some garbage, I'm going to tell them. And she said, all right, sir, that's fine. Tell them. Good. Yeah. She was just so happy to get a brown guy. She's like, I got one. I got one.
Yeah.
So all you need is a headshot and a resume. Yeah. You don't need to have a degree. But of course, there should be stuff on your resume, and that's where all this local theater stuff. Like within my improv group, while I was doing stuff there at that little community theater, they were doing some Shakespeare. Somebody asked me, hey, you want to be in the? I auditioned for that. I got the part. All right. They're doing a musical. I did that. Yeah. It was low-level community theater. There was no stakes, and it was great training. Again, it's free. And anyone can do that. There's theaters all around that you can audition for. It's not glamorous. The majority of acting is not glamorous. Right. There's not a lot of money in it. Right. It's fun to do. It can be a little bit ego trippy and high school drama kind of in some of these spots. So watch out. Don't get caught up in any of these cultish little things. But there's a lot of productive, fun acts.
Yeah.
Just on a hobby level. So you fill up the resume that way. I had the improv group. I had like some ophthalmology training video from the local college that somebody who shoot. I had like random things. Student films. I did some student films.
Yeah.
Once you start going to acting spaces and talking to actors, you just let them know, hey, I'm an actor. I'm interested in being an actor. And they'll tell you like, oh, there's stuff being shot here. So you go to local film festivals, little cold reading nights. You can Google search these. You can find these. I'm going tonight to an improv theater. Since I'm in Washington.
Yeah.
I looked up Improv Jam Washington. And there's a theater called Washington Improv Theater. They have a jam night every Wednesday. They have free shows. And at the end of the night, anybody can get on stage and play.
And
so
just do it. Wow.
Yeah, and I do it in New York when I come to New York.
I think you brought up a good point that all of these things, whether it's acting, whether it's singing, any type of artistic thing takes practice, right? And you have to find your avenue for practice. Whether it's, if you sing, you have to do it in front of people.
Yeah.
Improv is a really good way to practice your acting on a regular basis, from what I understand.
Yeah, improv's great because it's kind of everything. Whatever you bring to it, you can do.
Right.
If you want to sing in the improv show, you can sing. You want to do some poetry, you can do some poetry. It's just, so for me, I got the headshot, I got the resume, I Google searched. I didn't even have to. That when I got the headshots done, he had a little flyer there with all the local agencies, the more reputable ones. I sent an email to the first one. She replied, oh, come on in.
Yeah.
I went for a little interview. She signed me up. So, like I said, I got one.
Right.
There's a lot of parts for you guys. A lot of terrorist parts. I was, man, I'm not gonna be no terrorist. she's like, all right. If it's garbage, I'll tell them. Yeah. The next day, so I signed up. The next day, they needed a Pakistani person for Burn Notice, for the TV show Burn Notice, shooting in Miami.
Wow. Okay.
I got the part.
You got the part.
I walked in, auditioned. I gave them 2 rupees each. We had some rupees around the house. I didn't know what I was doing. I got the part. And I'm working with Bruce Campbell and Jeffrey Donovan, the stars of the show. The extras agency called me the day before. They said, I know the Pakistanis. We need Pakistanis for extras. Yeah. I was like, yeah, no Pakistanis. So the background, my first ever national gig, you see my little brother, his best friend from the neighborhood, my cousins, their uncle was just visiting from Pakistan. I brought them all with me. I picked up like school bus. Hey, we're getting on TV. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I watched.
That must have been so fun.
It was amazing. And I watched the star, and nobody was giving him a run for his money. He was just bored, cracking jokes. I said, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And there was one part in the script that didn't have no lines. I only had like 3 lines in the script. There was one part that said, the staff tries to calm him down. I was the head of the embassy. Unsuccessfully, he works room to a fever pitch. That's what it said. So I said, right there, I'm going to go for it. There's no lines. I started shouting at him, and he started shouting back, and I chased him off the set. Bruce Campbell. This is a big actor. I'm a big fan of this guy. In between takes, I'm looking at my little brother like, look at this. So they say, cut. We did it again. I shouted totally different things where you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
He's shouting back. 3rd take, director says, cut. Who the heck is this guy?
What are you doing?
Bruce Campbell's like, no, let him go. I like it. Give me a chance to vamp. He's like, let the sound editors earn their money for once. So I was like, oh, hi, Bruce. They got jumping between the takes.
Yeah.
And they kept it all. They kept all the stuff we made up. They cut out a part with some Russian models and some Lamborghinis to keep it.
Yeah.
And that was my first TV thing.
Oh, wow.
And then a few months later, they needed a Pakistani person for the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. I got the part. I just went in and read, and they flew me to Puerto Rico for a week. I got to work with George Clooney and Ewan McGregor. A small role in that. And then every year since then, it's been 1 or 2 of these parts. And in the meanwhile, I keep doing the improv. Locally, nationally. I've done a few months in New York. I went there, let me try the acting from there. I took some improv classes. That's like kind of my home base, doing improv. And then meanwhile, you just audition, you connect with local actors, do indies, do shorts, do whatever comes up.
Wow.
I've done it in New York, I've done it in Chicago. I moved to Pittsburgh for a little while, and I was doing it there. Eventually, I started booking TV shows out of New York. Oh, my agent in Miami then talked about me to a friend of hers who's an agent in New York. He signed me up. I said, look, I got a family business. I'm willing to fly on my own dime if I have to.
Yeah.
And he said, all right. And then I had to fly to LA for a Modern Family audition about 10 years ago to prove. And I didn't book it. And I just hung out. Went to improv theaters, stayed at my grandma's cousin's house, came back. But that showed them I was serious. And they continued. And then the first time I hit New York, it was a show called Damages with Glenn Close and Rose Byrne. Booked it. And then they started. And now mostly I book out of New York. So recently I did the show FBI. I was like a bad guy on that. I got to fight the star to the death in a sewer.
Oh, wow.
They built a fake sewer in Brooklyn.
You had a fight scene in there. And
wow,
that's family style. Okay.
And the star of that is an Egyptian guy. So I got killed by a Muslim for once. Hey, there's progress.
Your progress.
There's progress.
Right? A little bit. Moving. So.
Zico's like a nice guy. But I've done The Blacklist. I've done Homeland. I've done Army Wives.
Yeah.
I mean, every year it's one or two or three. I've had auditions for all the Marvel stuff. Audition for Miss Marvel. It's close.
Yeah.
And you just never know. You just wait around.
You know, this is so good to hear because we've known each other for a while back. Back in the Minna days, and to seeing you, being able to express yourself creatively is amazing. Let me ask you: is there any for all those people out there watching us, are there any pitfalls that we kind of need to maybe as a Muslim you kind of need to make sure that you're a little aware of?
It's challenging. A lot of the acting stuff happens at night. It happens in cabaret theaters, in bar settings sometimes. The entertainment industry is largely, at least the live local entertainment art scene, is largely funded by alcohol and by drinking and this and that. And these things happen in these spaces. So as a Muslim, you need to protect yourself as best you can. Just be aware, come do your thing. Yeah. You're there to do your aspect and then live. And I'll tell you this, the upbringing, alhamdulillah, mashallah, like my parents' upbringing and the Minna stuff and everything that it shows. They appreciate it in these settings. Yeah. A lot of times there aren't people being considerate and kind and God conscious and welcoming. All the things that we are taught as Muslims to be courteous, respectful, protective of. Is now we're in an age of a lot of movements of hashtags. Yeah. Me Too and this and that and Black Lives Matter. We already have that in Islam. We already have be good to each other, regardless of gender, regardless of race, and defend people and stand up for what's right. So those things, it's interesting. Like I've in South Florida, in general, I feel like I'm known as an actor that is a nice person.
Right. Okay. So you have
that's there for people, and and you're in these spaces. It's all dawah. Yeah. And you're having conversations. You're in the room at least because with TV stuff, they're writing Muslim characters. They're writing Islam all the time, totally inaccurately. And then you meet these people, kind of liberal, open-minded people, well-intentioned but ignorant as heck. And the content's just nonsense. Yeah. The prayer scenes are wrong. The names are made up.
People are praying wrong. Absolutely.
The names, they make up names because it sounds kind of
Muslim.
Ajuj. Like what? It's not a name. So like you talk to them. Right. At least you're in the room and can talk. Yeah. But no. So as far as protecting yourself, like stuff happens late at night sometimes. We're in an age of express yourself and your boundaries, and people will respect that. Yeah. So that's good. And it is lonely. I'm the only Muslim actor in South Florida, and I have been for 15 years. Wow. Occasionally, one or two will come through, but I'm still kind of shocked at that there aren't that many. I'm glad, I guess, for casting purposes, I get the parts. But no, I'd rather have more people. We need to fix that.
We need to make sure that there's opportunities for Muslims and non-Muslims who are conscious people who watch our programming. That they're able to express themselves creatively and in the right, keeping with their morals and principles.
Well, diversity supposedly is in favor right now, right? But is it real diversity? Do you want or do you want your version of me that you're comfortable with? Yeah. Do you want a real Muslim on set, or do you want your imaginary version of a Muslim that drinks beer and does this and that? And mind you, there are people of all levels of practice and stuff out there. But those also are conversations that can be had once you're in the room and once you're talking, and because they want inclusion, they want diversity, and
this is such an important. I know we only have a couple more minutes left, but how many millions of people watch some of these shows, you know? And it's affecting a lot of people. And so for us to be able to actually even have some type of a voice or a representation in this industry that has so much influence, I think is big.
Yeah, I think there's a young woman, Serena, she goes by Muslim Castings, I think, on Instagram right now. Doing a lot of good work. but in general, in the end, acting is a solitary kind of thing. It's you and that camera. You're the gladiator in the ring every time. You're trying to get that audition. And then it's you on set, making these connections, having these discussions. And I randomly ran into a Muslim cast crew member on this current shoot, the show Lioness, and I was doing, the director's assistant Muslim. And I was like, nice, like another one. Assalamu alaikum, how you doing? No, and you recharge a little bit. But man, it's so the key is to have positive experiences. There's a lot of rejection as a business. Be ready for that.
Rejection as in
you're constantly submitting and not getting parts. People will know once you've booked something, but they're not going to know about all the times you didn't book. People will be encouraging. Sometimes our community, it likes seeing the end product, but they're not good at supporting necessarily the process.
The process,
and that can be lonely. So it's good to have good interactions, both with the non-Muslims and your fellow crew and castmates, because you want that quality time to be quality time. You're taking time away from family, and then to keep yourself positive and connect with other creative people. Like you and I are creative, alhamdulillah. We try to recharge each other, and keep in mind the larger goal of expressing yourself creatively, but also adding something of benefit, inshallah, for the community.
For the community.
But yeah, so that's the acting journey for me.
That is great. I mean, I think I appreciate it's been a great conversation. I actually want to do improv now.
Let's do it tonight. Let's go get on stage. Let's get on stage.
I don't know about tonight, but
every Wednesday they have it apparently in Washington.
Okay.
And there's always, you can Google improv theater. You can Google local improv class. You asked about agents. You can Google agents. By the way, if anyone charges you money up front, that's a scam, probably.
Really?
An agent gets paid when you book. They get a percentage. That's a legit agent.
Yeah.
So watch out for that. People can definitely reach me on my Instagram. Fawad means heart.
Fawad, we'll put it down here. Fawad means heart. Okay.
Fawad means he. It's actually Fawad means he dot art. Heart. He dot art because I do art, and then heart. Fawad means heart. You see what I did? You see what I did there?
MashaAllah. Okay.
But yeah, inshallah, man.
Well, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
It's been a great conversation, and inshallah, you guys will benefit great from it. Inshallah. All right. Assalamu alaikum. This DeenTV video was made possible in part by Islamic Relief USA, working together for a better world, by Guidance Residential, the #1 Islamic home financer in the U.S., and by Recycle Processes Incorporated.